Thank you so much for supporting the channel. I'm unable to use my own voice at the moment, so for now I'll be narrating with a premium AI voice. I appreciate your understanding and support. Chapter 42221, Fatty Girl. Lin Moyu had gained complete control over both formations, knowing every detail by heart. With a little consideration, he instantly knew how to further enhance them. One after another, divine runes flew out, quickly forming a brand new array in midair. Now, both the sky and the lake each hosted a formation, and in between, a new array bridged them. The formation in the sky gradually descended, while the one in the lake slowly rose. As one ascended and the other descended, they made contact with the new formation at the midpoint. The three formations linked together, their power increasing dramatically as endless great Tao energy was drawn in. From within the array, a giant made of pure Tao force stepped forth. The battlefield transformed into a clash between two such giants, each letting out guttural roars and delivering heavy blows. Transcendent power beyond eternity shot through the void, space itself warping and quaking, as if it might shatter at any moment. The battle was fierce. Lin Moyu manipulated his Tao giant as though he were fighting in person, suppressing his opponent. At the same time, he improved the formation further, making his Tao giant ever stronger. The lake surface sank, cracks appeared on the shore, and under a barrage of blows, the giant formed from the mountain-shaped treasure began to split and fracture. Finally, after endless hammering, its body was smashed to pieces. The mountain-shaped treasure was revealed, and like a startled bird, tried to flee with a shrill screech. Trying to escape? Lin Moyu snorted, having his Tao giant reach out and firmly seize the treasure. The mountain-shaped treasure struggled madly in the giant's grasp, screeching in panic, but to no avail. With no path left, it tried to burrow into the Tao giant's body, attempting to gain control itself. Wishful thinking, Lin Moyu sneered, unleashing the power of death to envelop the treasure in an instant. The force of death devours all given time. Lin Moyu could corrode even a treasure of this strength. Even if he couldn't destroy it entirely, the artifact spirit inside would be in for a very hard time. The world-burning fire joined the power of death, enveloping the mountain-shaped treasure. World-burning fire is particularly effective against artifact spirits. Lin Moyu was confident it would be afraid. He'd already sensed the artifact spirit within, and dealing with artifact spirits was old hat for him. Now that it was in his hands, no matter how wild it was, he could make it behave. The Tao giant held the treasure tight, death's power wrapped around it, and the world-burning fire seared the inside. Soon, a wailing cry erupted from the artifact spirit. "Stop, stop, you win! Let me go!" The artifact spirit finally gave in, shouting in surrender. Lin Moyu heard a crisp voice. It sounded female and was sharp and forceful. He coldly ordered, "Absorb my blood essence. Acknowledge your master." A drop of blood essence flew from him, landing on the treasure's core. For artifact spirits, absorbing the master's blood essence was an act of submission. There was no getting around it. Other artifact spirits he could subdue without such measures. But for this one, Lin Moyu could not be sure, so he forced it. No negotiation. The spirit clearly did not want to submit, begging for mercy, but Lin Moyu ignored her. If she didn't comply, he would not cease. After a dozen minutes of relentless flames, the spirit finally caved, conceding within the world-burning fire. She absorbed his blood essence, which then circulated through the treasure, inscribing Lin Moyu's soul imprint on it, a basic level of refinement. Information about the treasure entered Lin Moyu's mind. Its name was Domain Rivers and Mountains Order. Once accepted, he released the treasure and murmured, "Come out." His words were a command the spirit could only obey. A large head poked out of the treasure, followed by the whole body, an artifact spirit resembling a 5- or 6-year-old girl, a bit chubby, with a cute round face but a fierce look in her eyes. She didn't seem particularly happy about surrendering, but recognized her position and obediently said, "Fatty greets master." Lin Moyu asked, "Who gave you that name?" Fatty shook her head. "I've known that name since I gained consciousness, but who gave it to me, I don't know." "You don't know who made you either?" Lin Moyu pressed. She shook her head again. "Nope." "Then do you know what you're supposed to do here?" "I do. I've always known. If someone controls both heaven and earth formations, I come out and kill them. Fatty even balled her fists, trying to look formidable. Lin Moyu, having controlled both arrays, triggered her emergence and she'd failed to kill him, instead being subdued and refined. She looked more resentful than ever, yet couldn't fight her fate. He pondered surely the one who set up this trial was the master of the Heavenly Void Palace. But what was the point? Was it just to test skill at formations? What benefit was there in that? He asked, "Your body is called Domain Rivers and Mountains Order. What exactly can it do?" Fatty replied, "I gather the power of all the mountains and rivers in the domain. I can manifest a giant whose strength surpasses eternity. In addition, I can suppress the domain's rivers and mountains, making them more stable and preventing collapse. And I can absorb chaos force, refining it into the power of the domain so the domain's strength increases. 3 abilities: combat, suppression, reinforcement. Just from her explanation, Lin Moyu understood its worth. The Domain Rivers and Mountains Order was immensely strong if possessed by any Eternal. They'd nearly be invincible among their peers. That said, no Eternal could easily tame it. To merely avoid being suppressed would already be a feat. "You've always been asleep beneath the lake?" Lin Moyu asked. "Pretty much wake up if someone comes, sleep when no one does." "Before me, did anyone else ever pass this way?" Fatty answered, "There's one guy who came by often, always flying over from above. He never triggered the array. Only one person ever triggered it, but he never tried to control it. He just walked through the maze. So I didn't bother with him." So it really was like that. The one she referred to as always flying over was the steward. The one who activated the array and passed through the maze was the Kunlun Emperor. Lin Moyu hadn't expected he'd choose the same path as Kunlun Emperor. Sometimes life is just that coincidental. "Now that you're mine, come with me. I'll take you out of the Heavenly Void Palace, let you see the wider world." Fatty didn't seem excited by the prospect, but asked, "Master, how do you plan to leave the palace?" "Are there several ways?" "One is through the side door. Something went wrong there. It was supposed to be closed, but now it's open. The last guy left by that way with help from a powerful treasure to bypass the mighty guardian. The other way is to the palace's core. If you crack the maze there, you can control the whole palace." Chapter 4222. The Fairy of Tribulations appears again. Lin Moyu looked at Fatty. "How do you know all this?" Fatty shook her head. "I don't know. I've just always known it since I became conscious." Despite acknowledging Lin Moyu as master, she kept her assertive, self-assured tone. Lin Moyu didn't mind as long as she obeyed. He asked, "That side gate guardian, can you beat it?" Fatty thought for a moment. "Shouldn't be a problem. Let's go check the side gate first. Do you know the way?" Lin Moyu said. Fatty pointed, "That way." Lin Moyu decided to visit the side gate first. According to Fatty, the Kunlun Emperor escaped through it, with the help of some treasure. Although countless years had passed, time seemed to lose meaning inside the Heavenly Void Palace, and all traces and marks remained unchanged. By going there, Lin Moyu could still observe the traces and perhaps deduce what happened in the distant past. He was curious about what treasure the Kunlun Emperor found that allowed him to escape. While there was no danger for Lin Moyu himself inside the palace, it was indeed deadly for other Eternals, even for a half-step chaos cultivator like Kunlun Emperor. This wasn't arrogance, it was fact. As for the butler, who had visited many times, Lin Moyu easily guessed that his real goal was the heart of the Heavenly Void Palace, perhaps to control the palace or use it for some other scheme. Lin Moyu ignored him for now, planning to settle the score after visiting the palace center. The butler, content to hide in the shadows and play tricks, wasn't worth taking too seriously. They crossed the lake and entered a narrow path. Fatty said that at the end of the path was the side gate. She didn't know which treasure Kunlun Emperor got there. Lin Moyu soon reached the path's end. Before him was a small palace, not very large nor particularly ornate, but exquisitely built, constructed entirely from innate primordial treasure materials. While such a structure outside would be a supreme treasure, inside the Heavenly Void Palace, even the paving stones were of the same stuff, so it was unremarkable. Looking at the palace, Lin Moyu felt a sense of déjà vu. He asked, "Is this the side gate?" More or less. The side gate's behind this palace and the guardian is behind it too, Fatty replied. What's this palace for? Lin Moyu asked again. Fatty shook her head. I don't know. I've never been inside. Lin Moyu found it strange. You say you were born with all this knowledge, yet you don't know what this building is for? Fatty replied, That's just how it is. I know most paths in the Heavenly Void Palace, but as for every room or building, I really don't know their functions. Lin Moyu thought her memory was clearly artificially implanted, and the only one who could have done so was her creator, the master of the Heavenly Void Palace. But why implant memories like this? She seemed to have an internal map, but not knowledge of each room's purpose. Lin Moyu proceeded into the palace, trusting Fatty wouldn't deceive him. The interior wasn't large, just 10 meters deep and wide, with no expansion by space Dao power. Inside was a mess, like it had been through a fight. Items were scattered everywhere, pens, papers, decorations, overturned tables, and chairs. That sense of familiarity grew stronger in Lin Moyu's heart. He realized the palace was more like a storeroom, filled with unimportant things. Every scattered piece was a treasure, gleaming with spiritual radiance, but Lin Moyu didn't bother picking them up as another suspicion was growing inside him. The current situation was matching up with a certain memory he just needed to confirm it. At the back of the palace, he stopped suddenly. There was a platform, which must have once held something. Now it was gone, leaving just a mark. The mark was long and narrow, letting him guesstimate the shape of the missing item. There was also lingering, familiar, and powerful energy suffusing the area. Lin Moyu's heart surged. He figured out what Kunlun Emperor had acquired here. Exiting the palace, he encountered another short passageway, only 10 meters long, leading to a door. This door had a gap on the left, clearly smashed open by someone. Standing nearby was a puppet radiating dazzling golden light, which slowly turned its head toward Lin Moyu, exuding a terrifying aura. This was no ordinary puppet. Its whole body was forged of innate primordial treasure material, refined to perfect solidity. Lin Moyu knew that even his world-ending palm wouldn't hurt it. It radiated an aura beyond eternity, with both immense defense and attack power. No wonder the Kunlun Emperor hadn't been able to beat it, having to crash through the wall to escape, probably using the treasure obtained inside. Lin Moyu said, "She's yours," to Fatty. Fatty agreed cheerily, shooting from his hand and morphing mid-air into a giant, charging at the puppet guardian. The puppet shot forward like lightning, the two colliding fiercely in a narrow corridor. Multiple tiers of light sprang up around them, absorbing all the shockwaves. The Heavenly Void Palace itself was totally unaffected. The battle was a stalemate, neither side able to secure victory for the moment. With Fatty keeping the guardian busy, Lin Moyu strolled over to the side gate, checking the hole smashed in it. The opening's shape confirmed his guess. The Kunlun Emperor must have used the Ferry of Tribulations he found in the palace to crash through the door and escape. But if that's the case, others shouldn't have known he acquired the ferry, Lin Moyu mused. And the legend places the ferry appearing long before the Kunlun Emperor. How does that make sense? Solving one mystery just brought him a new one. At that moment, Lin Moyu glanced up and through the gap spotted a black speck zipping along the dais, rapidly approaching the 5 generations Heavenly Void Palace. The Ferry of Tribulations, Lin Moyu cried quietly. The very ferry he had been seeking was now flying straight for the palace, soon coming to hover overhead before slowly descending, right to the center of the palace. Without hesitation, Lin Moyu called to Fatty, "Let's go." Before we head to the next chapter, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep the stories coming. Chapter 4223. My choice is the right choice. Fatty was very obedient, immediately stopping and following Lin Moyu away. The side gate guardian was only responsible for guarding the side gate. Once inside the palace, it would not act again, instead returning at once to stand straight at the side gate, meticulously fulfilling its duty. Standing inside the palace, Lin Moyu glanced at the side gate guardian. This puppet, surpassing even the eternity level, might well be the peak of puppet crafting arts. If there were more of such puppets, they would constitute a terrifying force. In another sense, if not for his own existence in the 5 regions domain, a single one of these puppets once unleashed could sweep through the entire domain. Even the half-step chaos-level Kunlun Emperor, when faced with this guardian, had no choice but to use the Ferry of Tribulations to smash his way out of the Heavenly Void Palace and escape. This shows just how powerful the Heavenly Void Palace is and how strong its master must be. Lin Moyu proceeded with 3 parts caution, telling Fatty to lead the way to the palace's central area. According to Fatty, their current location was only at the edge of the Heavenly Void Palace, the outermost layer. To reach the center, they would have to cross the ancient forest inside the palace, which would not be an easy task even Fatty was not certain of making it through. Following corridors and passing through layer upon layer of palace walls, Lin Moyu realized the internal structure was extremely complex, a giant maze in itself. Without Fatty's guidance, one would likely never even leave the periphery, let alone see the ancient forest or reach the core. Moreover, many dangers lurked here. A wrong turn could spell trouble. Even an Eternal might meet their death. Lin Moyu speculated that the Kunlun Emperor most likely got lost in these outer parts, eventually stumbled into that storeroom palace, and by luck obtained the Ferry of Tribulations, managing to save his own life as a result. The designs within the Heavenly Void Palace were intricately linked. Had Lin Moyu not cracked the 2 formations of heaven and earth over the lake, or tamed Fatty, he too would have struggled to find the right way. The fruit he had planted, via causal ritual, was already subtly working, pointing him to the correct path, perhaps even the only correct path. After roaming the palace for about half the day, Lin Moyu encountered a most unusual door. This door was far higher than any others, and terrifying powers surged from it to the sky, linking straight to the heavenly Tao. This meant that the only way through was straight from the front. Neither above nor below offered any path. In front of the door stood 2 puppet guardians, just like the one at the side gate, each boasting power beyond eternity. Any Eternal would be stopped, and even a half-step chaos being couldn't pass. Lin Moyu was not worried. He didn't even need to act personally to get through. Fatty said, "I can hold off one," meaning the other would be up to Lin Moyu alone. Even so, though Fatty had become his artifact, her stubborn personality remained unchanged. Of course, had Lin Moyu insisted she go against both, she would have done so only with some irritation. Lin Moyu shook his head. "No need for you to act. I'll handle it." With a thought, an ocean of crystal undead servants surged forth. Against these 2 puppet guardians, even numbers would not help. The undead simply weren't strong enough. As puppets rooted in the Heavenly Void Palace, with limitless energy supply, they had no fear of attrition. But Lin Moyu never meant to defeat them outright. The role of the undead servants was just to entangle, tying them up so he could move forward and open the door. The undead and the puppets fought it out, swaths of the undead being smashed to bits, but every second they regenerated back to life. The undead adjusted tactics on their own, using relay attacks to keep the 2 puppets occupied and gradually pulling them aside to open up space in front of the door for Lin Moyu. Leisurely, Lin Moyu strolled to the grand door. At a glance, it looked 100 meters tall, but upon close scrutiny, one would find it effectively boundless, as if one's eyes could not reach its end. Upon its surface were endless patterns, intertwining into a staggeringly complex design. He tried pushing the door. It didn't budge. "Fatty, your turn," Fatty answered and transformed into a giant, bracing herself to push open the door. The engravings on the door all lit up, emitting an ear-splitting grinding noise. This door, unopened for countless years, seemed in this moment ready to move. Fatty bore the power of the entire domain's mountains and rivers, her strength unmatched beyond even the Lord of Force. The door grew brighter and brighter until all the patterns glowed. Then, with a sudden blast of force, Fatty was sent flying, and even Lin Moyu was forced back a dozen steps before finding his footing. A ceaseless downpour of Tao force rained upon the door, making it shine ever brighter, yet it remained unmoved. Fatty flew back and said, "I'll try again." She looked deeply unwilling to give up. Lin Moyu let her proceed. Fatty turned into a giant once more and threw all her strength at the door. This time, as soon as she exerted force, the door boomed and lit up. Flinging Fatty a kilometer away, she only stopped upon crashing into a tall wall. Lin Moyu chuckled. "Want to try again? Oh, flowers, please." Fatty, though unwilling, knew her limits. "No, no more," Lin Moyu had already seen that Fatty couldn't open the door. Neither could he. The door was sealed by a formation, a unique one, impossible to push open unless the formation was solved first. The carvings on the door were not ordinary patterns, but a weaving of over 1,000 divine runes. Lin Moyu recognized this style. The runes had been broken apart, but not entirely disconnected, forming a state between continuity and division. Then, those scattered runes were blended together to create this unique design. Within the design, a powerful formation was hidden. Fatty's Heaven and Earth Grand Array was a simplified expression of rune manipulation, while this door represented the most complex style. One simple, one complex, it showed two extremes in divine rune use. Since entering the Heavenly Void Palace, formations and divine runes had been everywhere. Clearly, the palace's master was a master of the art. Lin Moyu analyzed the structure of the door's array, reassembling the scattered runes until he understood its core and deduced how it could be unraveled. Soon he made out the logic, but his expression grew heavy. He discovered there was no way to solve this formation, a dead array. Such arrays are designed to require a specific key object. If that is lost or destroyed, the formation becomes insolvable, even to its own creator. The keys to the formation before him were the two puppet guardians, meaning only they could open this door. No one else could. Thus, one would need to control both puppet guardians, at least temporarily. To control two half-step chaos puppets harder than killing them, Lin Moyu remarked to himself. This was no easy feat. While Lin Moyu pondered, Fatty timidly tried pushing the door again and again, only to be repeatedly blasted away. Agitated, she stomped her foot, cracking the primordial treasure floor beneath her feet. After a moment, powerful energy surged from Lin Moyu, and he murmured to himself, "I have already planted the fruit. My choice is the right choice. It doesn't have to follow your prescribed path." Chapter 422-4 The Ancient Forest. Within the palace, Lin Moyu's aura grew ever stronger. Ever since he entered the Heavenly Void Palace, he'd maintained power-gathering mode, holding himself in a half-step Chaos Realm state. Within the Heavenly Void Palace, half-step Chaos Realm was just enough to ensure self-preservation. Like an invincible chess piece, able to wreak havoc on the board, but still only a piece, not the player. At this moment, Lin Moyu aimed to overturn the board, either become the player himself or end the game for everyone. Controlling the guardian puppets was nearly an impossible task. Subduing them by force would even be easier. Since that was the case, he'd just break down the door directly. Lin Moyu realized one thing. With the fruit planted by the causal ring, every choice he made would be the correct one. Power surged, thunder roared within him, and his aura leapt to the next level. The difference between half-step Chaos Realm and true Chaos Realm was vast, like the gap between Eternity and the Great Tao Realm, hundreds or thousands of times over. Fatty was so startled by Lin Moyu's surge in power that she stood to the side with huge, shocked eyes, unable to speak a word. Inside the Heavenly Void Palace, domain rules could not reach, so Lin Moyu had no fear of being expelled by domain rejection. World annihilating palm of the Great Tao! Lin Moyu, now in Chaos Realm, unleashed a palm strike with his full force. A massive handprint appeared in the void, drawing upon the power of the Tao. All the Tao forces were gathered up, instantly refined into primordial Tao energy. The handprint slammed down on the great door. The door burst with dazzling radiance, resisting the world-annihilating palm. Lin Moyu was smashed to pieces, but immediately revived in a flash of violet light. Watching, he saw his attack was steadily crushing the resistance. Both sides' forces were sources of Tao power, but the world-annihilating palm had a unique trait. It could refine the Tao force it struck, turning it into its own. So, for every bit the imprint pressed forward, the door's power was depleted, but so too did the hand's power decline. Power gather, Lin Moyu's aura surged again. The scene replayed itself. If he couldn't overturn the board in one strike, then he'd do it twice. If twice wasn't enough, he'd do it 3 times. Once more, Lin Moyu broke into Chaos Realm, launching another world-annihilating palm. Without pause, he cycled in and out of Chaos Realm, dying and being reborn with every strike. This was nothing new to him, just routine by now. With 10 consecutive strikes, the door could no longer withstand him. With a thunderous crash, it finally shattered. The door wasn't opened, it was battered to pieces by brute force. Lin Moyu looked at his handiwork with satisfaction, muttering, "Another way to deal with an insolvable array is to simply break it by force." This was a valid alternative. Lin Moyu had also considered if the world-annihilating palm failed, he'd simply use his catastrophic scepter. He refused to believe this door could block such a divine weapon. Fatty was not only shocked but also a little bewildered. "So, you can do it like that?" Lin Moyu grinned. "There's nothing you can't do. Let's go." With that, he strode across the shattered door in 2 or 3 steps, Fatty hurrying to follow. As Lin Moyu passed through, the undead servants instantly vanished as though they'd never been there. The 2 guardian puppets, deprived of opponents, simultaneously returned to their posts at the 2 sides of the heavenly gate. Their job was to guard the door. Whether the door was intact or destroyed was none of their concern. They were only puppets without intelligence, incapable of reflection, acting solely on orders. Beyond the door was a grassy prairie, and ahead, an ancient dense forest. In the depths of the misty woods stood a spired hall faintly visible. Fatty pointed to the barely discernible hall. "That's the center of the Heavenly Void Palace." Looking at the spired hall, Lin Moyu felt it looked oddly familiar, and he could also see the Ferry of Tribulations, which had arrived from afar, currently parked atop the spire. Around the tower, great Tao energy billowed, forming drifting clouds. Lin Moyu could also see a certain figure inside hiding sneakily among the mists. It was the butler, the steward. The butler, though formless, could blend himself with the Tao force, making him difficult to spot. But as long as one had a soul, the undead eye could always find it. The butler never expected that his presence would be so easily detected. "So lively," Lin Moyu laughed. His hunch was correct, the butler's goal was indeed the heart of the Heavenly Void Palace. Fatty was puzzled. "What's so lively?" Lin Moyu just smiled. "Nothing. Just that the ancient forest of the palace lies ahead, right?" Fatty took the cue. "That's right. We're in the heart of the palace now. To reach the center, we have to go through the ancient forest, and the forest is very dangerous." "What kind of dangers?" Lin Moyu pressed. Fatty shook her head. "I only know it's dangerous, but as for what the risks are, I don't really know." Once again, a half solution. Fatty was essentially a guidepost and little more. She wasn't withholding information, she simply wasn't aware of it herself. At the edge of the forest, Lin Moyu saw ancient trees of various heights and girths. Rooted in graceful disorder across the ground, these trees had existed since the construction of the Heavenly Void Palace, now countless years old. Thick and towering, they seemed to have grown to their limit. Compared to the tree he'd seen in the small garden, these were even more formidable. Each tree held peak eternal level combat power. Plus, given their nature, every tree had countless branches and roots, capable of forming warriors or transforming into weapons. When all activated, they could lock down the whole ancient forest. At that point, it wouldn't be a matter of numbers. Even if Lin Moyu summoned an army of undead, there would be too few able to truly fight at the front. Just imagining it, Lin Moyu realized that his undead servants would never breach this defense. It was as if his own tactic of surrounding the enemy with undead was now being used against him. No matter how many he deployed, they'd never get through. In addition, the ancient forest offered more than just trees. Through his undead eye, Lin Moyu saw that each tree had a soul, all of about equal strength. But deeper in, closer to the center, there were even more powerful souls. Such souls exceeded even the power of eternity. Lin Moyu judged them to be half-step chaos level. There were roughly 10 of them in the area near the center. Closer still to the very core, there was a soul of even greater power. This, Lin Moyu judged, would be the real challenge. Now, Lin Moyu had 2 choices. 1. Keep using power gathering, raise himself to Chaos Realm, then open a way with the world-annihilating palm, blasting his way inside. 2. Find a way to break through the situation, because with such a careful arrangement from the palace's master, there had to be a correct method. He just had to figure it out. He pondered over the intentions behind such an elaborate design. Since his arrival in the Heavenly Void Palace, everything related to divine runes and formation arts. Clearly, the palace master sought someone skilled in formations, but after solving a portion, Lin Moyu had rebelled, overturning the plan instead of following the intended route. Since he'd come this far, he might as well keep going on his own path come what may. Lin Moyu resolved to force his way through, but not relying entirely on power gathering and brute strength. Chapter 4225. Experiment after experiment. A massive number of undead servants were summoned, densely occupying both the sky and the ground. Though the ancient forest within the palace was vast, it could not withstand such sheer numbers of undead. Over 100 trillion undead servants surrounded the ancient forest, forming a complete ring of encirclement. In terms of sheer numbers, the undead were not fewer than the ancient trees of the forest, and perhaps even surpassed them. But in terms of individual combat strength, each undead was somewhat inferior. Next, Lin Moyu took out the Catastrophic Scepter. Such a good opportunity is hard to come by. Not running an experiment would be a real waste. Fatty girl, didn't understand what Lin Moyu meant, but when she saw the Catastrophic Scepter, she immediately felt a bone-chilling fear. With a swoosh, she retreated more than 100 meters, her voice sharper than usual. "What is that thing?" Lin Moyu chuckled. "My artifact." Fatty stared at the Catastrophic Scepter, an intense feeling arising. If she was struck by that thing a few times, she could actually die. Her own body was incomparably sturdy. She never believed it possible that anything could shatter her. Now, with the Catastrophic Scepter, she had a whole new understanding. Lin Moyu willed and activated the Catastrophic Scepter. With his greater strength, controlling the scepter was now much easier. It responded to his every thought. The 4 gemstones on the Catastrophic Scepter lit up. Then the balanced gemstone suddenly glowed brilliantly, its light enveloping a vast area. At least a third of the ancient forest was covered by this radiance, and far more undead servants were included in its range. The balanced gemstone radiated its unique glory, rewriting the rules within its coverage. The aura of the undead began to rise, while the aura of each ancient tree in the forest began to fall. The ancient trees awakened one by one, as if greatly stimulated. Countless branches whipped through the void. Fatty simultaneously cried out, "What's happening? Why is my power weakening?" Lin Moyu smiled softly. "Don't panic. This is a normal change." Fatty knew Lin Moyu was the culprit, or more accurately, it was his artifact. But Lin Moyu was the master, and she merely the servant. Whatever he did, she had to obey. She stopped fussing, but continued to watch the Catastrophic Scepter warily, deeply afraid of it. The ancient trees woke from slumber and immediately locked onto the origin, the source. Countless branches pierced space, lashing toward Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu, as the instigator of everything, naturally became the primary target of their assault. He didn't need to do anything personally. His undead servants were already arrayed in front, blocking all attacks on his behalf. The ancient trees were individually stronger than the undead. Normally, it would take tens or even hundreds of times more undead as meat shields to barely block their attacks. But under the influence of the balanced gemstone, the undead's power increased, while the ancient tree's power diminished, bringing both sides to the same level, neither able to overpower the other. The undead blocked the ancient tree's attacks, and the undead affected by the balanced gemstone turned to assault the forest. They became vanguard blades, stabbing into the ancient woods as if to rip the forest open. The trees waved their branches, and endless roots burst from the ground to weave into walls in the void, firmly stopping the undead. Everything unfolded just as Lin Moyu had expected. Neither side could best the other. Even using the balanced gemstone to equalize both sides' strength, the undead serving Lin Moyu still could not break through the forest head-on. There were simply too many formidable trees with endless branches, and only the foremost ranks of undead could actually fight. The branches formed tree warriors and fought the undead, while the roots turned into massive shields protecting the entire forest. Lin Moyu slowly rose into the air, surveying the forest from above. When the large-scale clash between the undead and the ancient woods erupted, uncountable divine runes lit up within the forest. Each rune developed into a formation, and these in turn wove themselves into a huge network of arrays, linking the whole forest as one. This allowed the power of the trees to intermingle and be shared. Even if Lin Moyu wanted to break a single point, he could not. He realized this was the real solution intended. To crack the Great Formation, and use it to fight back against the forest. This was the arrangement set by the master of the Heavenly Void Palace, the right answer to the game. But Lin Moyu deliberately didn't want to play by those rules. He had his own ideas. Since he was overturning the game board, why walk someone else's route? To Lin Moyu, breaking this formation was only a question of time. After a glance, he already had an idea. The formation's array technique did not surpass his own, nor did it offer anything for him to study, so there was no need to waste time on it. Instead, he decided to use the ancient forest and its endless trees to run 10 experiments of his own. The balanced gemstone continued to shine, sending the whole battle into a bizarre state of equilibrium. No one could win. Now, faint and unusual auras began to rise from Lin Moyu. A force beyond the Tao itself spontaneously manifested within him, quickly spreading to every undead servant present. Chaos spell. Fortify troops. This was a powerful chaos-level spell on par with power gathering, able to boost all summons by one realm. Even if only a small step, it was enough. With the balanced gemstone in play, Lin Moyu's undead had already barely reached the Eternal Realm's higher levels, nearly approaching the Eternal Peak. The ancient trees, originally Peak Eternal, were pulled down in power by the balanced gemstone, leaving them also near but still not quite at Eternal Peak. Lin Moyu cast the Fortify Troops spell, causing the undead to leap in power, rocketing instantly to the true peak of eternity, barely a thread away from half-step chaos. Surprisingly, the balanced gemstone did not suppress this sudden rise in undead power, and the equilibrium remained. In other words, the chaos level. Fortify Troops spell was not restrained by the balanced gemstone. Now, the undead's power surpassed that of the trees. The earlier equilibrium was broken, and the undead began to breach the tangled defenses of the trees and pressed inside. This was precisely the experiment Lin Moyu wanted to conduct, and the results were exceedingly gratifying. From then on, he would have a new trump card. With undead servants, supported by both Fortify Troops and the balanced gemstone, their combat force could rise dramatically. The tree-formed defenses were totally shattered. Undead surged in from multiple points, breaking through lines, and teams of undead rampaged inward, leaving the forest riddled with devastation. Undead attacks poured down like a rainstorm. Cracks appeared on tree after tree, which then toppled to the ground. Even when their trunks broke, the roots of the trees still put up fierce resistance, fighting on. The undead didn't hold back. Breaking the earth, they plunged below the surface, uprooting ancient trees and hacking them to pieces. The trees' vitality was tremendous. Even when 70 or 80% of their roots were destroyed, they didn't die and kept fighting. Still, the undead showed no mercy, killing until there were none left standing. At last, an ancient tree was slaughtered and in death released a wail while its soul fire was extinguished. Lin Moyu smiled lightly. The next experiment can begin. Chapter 4226. Sweeping forward all the way. The ancient tree fell in battle, its corpse rapidly rotting into dust. Yet even as dust, there was substance remaining, and to Lin Moyu, that was enough. For his next experiment, corpse explosion. These ancient trees were immensely strong, their base strength having touched upon the half-step chaos realm. Yet their bodies had not truly undergone chaos transformation and still belonged to a category acceptable within the domain. Lin Moyu understood that chaotification and domain level were two completely different concepts. If a body was not chaotified, then even an Eternal's physical body and soul, once inside chaos, would not last long. The power of chaos could inflict immense damage on an Eternal's body and soul, and this damage was irresistible. The most basic requirement for chaotification was to reach the half-step chaos realm. In other words, the final step for an Eternal. At least the need to step out that half-step. In the past, even though the Kunlun Emperor made it to the half-step, he did not enter chaos. His body was not chaotified. He didn't make it through the Soul Devourer test then. It's not clear whether he gave up or realized that half-step chaos realm was not enough to get through the Soul Devourer ordeal. In the Spirit Demon clan previously, through the Supreme Monument, Lin Moyu learned some information about chaotification. Only when both body and soul had completed chaotification could one truly transcend. At that time, the strength of flesh and soul would increase dramatically by dozens or even hundreds of times. In this ancient forest, there were 10 powerful ancient trees at half-step Chaos Realm. Closer to the central Spire Palace, there were another 10 that seemed to have reached true Chaos Realm. Even if Lin Moyu entered Chaos Realm, he wasn't sure he could face those. But he didn't want to walk the usual road or follow the chessboard laid out by the Heavenly Void Palace's master, so he had to figure out other methods to take them down. But Chaos Realm was too formidable. Even with spell methods letting him step briefly into Chaos Realm, Lin Moyu felt how terrifying that realm was. If the other party was truly Chaos Realm, it was even unknown whether the balanced gemstone would have effect or not. For this, Lin Moyu wanted to conduct his second experiment not by using the ancient forest formations as weapons, but by turning the ancient trees themselves into weapons against each other. He also wanted to see if Corpse Explosion could injure a Chaos Realm opponent, and just how savage Chaos Realm truly was. His soul wrapped around the corpse of a slain ancient tree, and a puff of dust floated up, emitting an odd aura. Lin Moyu raised his hand and gently pointed. Corpse Explosion! His movement was incredibly gentle, seemingly casual, yet the ancient tree he pointed at suddenly erupted in a blast that shook the heavens. Its body exploded from within. One moment it was fighting. The next it was shattered to pieces, the explosion spreading from its body to its roots. It didn't just die itself. Even nearby ancient trees were drawn in. The underground roots of the ancient trees were tangled and interconnected. The explosion's effects spread to at least 5 nearby trees, each damaged to some degree, with countless branches and roots torn apart. But this was just the beginning. As the corpse of the blasted tree hadn't yet fully turned into dust, Lin Moyu locked onto it again. Once again, a gentle point. Corpse Explosion. Boom! The explosion was earth-shaking, rushing all the way skyward. Even the heavenly Tao in the sky was shattered by the shock. 2 explosions, each one more powerful than an Eternal's all-out blow. The force was terrifying. Fatty watched, aghast. Master, what did you just do? Lin Moyu's array of techniques was far too bizarre. Fatty could not discern what method Lin Moyu had used. Just such a casual gesture, and an ancient tree of the Eternal level simply blew up. If that finger were pointed at her, would she detonate on the spot? Fatty decided it was best to rein in her temper and be more polite to this master, Lin Moyu. Lin Moyu gave Fatty a calm glance and said indifferently, just an experiment, nothing to dwell on. The calmer Lin Moyu appeared, the more unfathomable he seemed to Fatty. The 2 explosions were just the opening scene, not even worthy of being called the overture. The real show began. Lin Moyu's finger kept pointing. Explosions followed one after another, and ancient trees fell continuously. His corpse explosion, coordinated with the crushing advance of the undead servants, caused more and more ancient trees to die. The once densely packed ancient forest was quickly cleared away in huge patches. With more corpses, Lin Moyu's experiments deepened. He started detonating 2 trees at once, then 3, then 4, measuring the effects. After a round of explosions, Lin Moyu determined the most efficient approach, exploding 5 trees at once. Though this couldn't immediately kill all 5, it did severely injure them. One more explosion would finish them off. Thus, 2 tree corpses could kill 5 trees, yielding 5 more corpses. These 5 could explode and kill more than 10 ancient trees. Lin Moyu strolled through the ancient woods as if at leisure, walking upon the dust from ancient corpses and over the bodies of fallen trees. The footprints left in the dust were his last gift to them. Dust to dust, earth to earth, you never truly belonged in this world. Go in peace. Lin Moyu murmured these words, as if giving them their final blessings. Fatty followed speechlessly behind. Earlier, she'd called the ancient woods deadly, but before Lin Moyu, they were as easy as walking through a garden, even easier than dealing with herself had been. Fatty even felt relieved if Lin Moyu had used these methods on her, she'd probably have been killed instantly. The balance. Gemstone as light swept over more of the area. Lin Moyu's undead crashed forth in a rolling tide, the ancient tree's deaths replenishing his energy with soul force. The slaughter pressed forward ever faster, until at last the 10 powerful ancient trees deep in the forest were awakened. Their soul flames blazed, exuding a terrifying aura. They were far beyond the other trees. They stood outside the coverage of the balanced gemstone, and tens of millions of branches whipped through space. As soon as they appeared, the branches grew to enormous size, over a kilometer thick, crashing down like mountains. Countless undead were smashed to pieces, and the branches seemed immune to the balanced gemstone's effects, sweeping the battlefield and putting the undead to rout. The situation had instantly reversed. Fatty exclaimed, "The Tree Kings are awake. They have half-step Chaos Realm strength, very hard to deal with." Lin Moyu responded, "So they're called Tree Kings. Then there must be a Tree Sovereign as well. How strong is it?" Fatty replied, "Yes, there is a Tree Sovereign. Its true strength is unknown, but it must be incredibly powerful. It's only awakened once in all this time. That one time, someone flew in from outside, apparently headed for the Central Spire Palace, but was blocked by the Tree Sovereign. The Tree Sovereign sent a single branch skyward, then crashed it down, transforming it into the ancient forest and smashing that guy to pieces. But he didn't die, just escaped." This time, Fatty's attitude was much better. Lin Moyu didn't even need to ask much. She volunteered everything. Lin Moyu deduced that the guy she mentioned was probably the butler. It seemed that anyone wanting to reach the Central Palace would have to pass the Tree Sovereign's trial. But for now, Lin Moyu would focus on dealing with the Tree Kings. He willed, but immediately frowned. He couldn't lock onto the Tree Kings at all. Before we head to the next chapter, please like, comment, and subscribe. Your support helps us keep the stories coming. Chapter 4227, Truly Tough. When Lin Moyu's soul swept over the area where the Tree Kings were located, he found it empty, yet he had a strange, indescribable feeling. The Tree Kings were shrouded by an invisible power. Though they clearly existed in the world, and the undead eye could see the soul flames within them, it was as if they did not truly inhabit this realm. The sensation was bizarre. They obviously were there, yet simultaneously absent. It was like seeing an object that you could look at but could not touch, while the object itself could nevertheless attack you at will. With a gentle flick of his finger, Lin Moyu sent forth a cascade of scarlet flames, and the Hell of Bones descended from the sky to cover the Tree Kings. Countless fearsome ghosts of hell rushed out of the Hell of Bones, but it was as if they had lost their targets. Countless branches lashed out like a dense net of sharp blades, tearing the Hell Ghosts to shreds in an instant. The entire Hell of Bones trembled as though it would shatter at any moment. Black Prison, Hai Yu, with a roar, charged out, spewing dragon breath to burn the branches while sweeping its tail through the air to scatter them. Its dragon claws seized upon branches, trying to rip them apart, but the branches were far too tough. Black Prison's tearing had almost no effect, and the dragon's breath barely worked. More branches whipped in, overpowering Black Prison. The current Hell of Bones was extremely powerful. The might of its Hell Ghosts was in no way inferior to Lin Moyu's undead servants, and Black Prison by now exceeded many Eternals in strength. Even so, they were still not a match for the Tree Kings. Lin Moyu squinted. When the Hell of Bones was attacked, it should automatically lock onto its attacker. This function had never failed before, yet now it had. Even Hell of Bones could not lock onto the Tree Kings. Black Prison could only grip a few branches. If the branches were not actively attacking, there likely wouldn't even be an opportunity to touch them. As things stood, he could only passively defend. How was one supposed to fight like this? Multitasking, Lin Moyu continued bombarding other ancient trees, while turning part of his focus to the Tree Kings. He observed, analyzed, and searched for weaknesses. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh! The space before Lin Moyu shattered as several branches lashed out from the sky. Fatty reacted instantaneously, transforming into a giant, leaping in front of Lin Moyu and smashing the branches away with both fists, only to be driven back nearly a kilometer. Cracks appeared all over Fatty's fists. As the domain rivers and mountains order, her whole body was forged from innate primordial treasure, unparalleled in solidity. Yet, she cracked from just one hit, which showed the sheer force behind the blow. Had it struck Lin Moyu, he would surely have died. The branches circled back and struck again. Fatty returned as well, intercepting them once more. In less than half a second, the cracks on her fists vanished, her recovery astonishing. Lin Moyu quietly ordered, "Grab it!" Fatty, now exceedingly obedient, instantly changed her attack to a grip and seized one of the branches tightly. The remaining branches struck her again, causing fresh cracks to spread across her body. Lin Moyu produced a rarely used artifact, the Icy Jade Meditation Mat. He sat on it directly, letting his soul power pour into it. He had used the Icy Jade Meditation Mat many times before. It could freeze even the great Tao in the vacuum of the virtual realm and had once been invaluable when dealing with the young Domain King. But those instances were only a fraction of its true abilities. Now, Lin Moyu was pushing the mat to its limits, making it blaze with light. Countless fine white threads shot out, instantly wrapping the branch that Fatty held. Wherever the white threads touched, the void froze and all flows of power ceased. There is nothing in existence that cannot be frozen. Given low enough temperatures and strong enough power, even the great Tao can be frozen, even entire domains. The crazily thrashing branch went still in an instant. A layer of white frost appeared on its surface. Inside, it was already occupied by the power of frost. "Let go!" Lin Moyu instructed. Fatty obeyed, letting go immediately. The cold force violently erupted, freezing the surrounding void and making Fatty retreat in haste. She could sense the ice's danger, realizing she too might be frozen. In the next moment, the freezing followed the branch through the void, enveloping the Tree King. On one of the Tree Kings, icy frost rose, spreading a layer of cold all over it until it was transformed into an ice sculpture. Within the ice sculpture, a pair of eyes appeared, Lin Moyu's eyes. Through the Icy Jade Meditation Mat, he let his soul permeate the frost into the Tree King itself. He had not hoped to kill a Tree King with the mat, he only wanted to know why he could not lock onto it. With his soul contacting the Tree King through the frost, Lin Moyu finally realized the answer. Chaotification. So that's it? He whispered this to himself. The surface of the Tree King's body had undergone strange changes, different from all other creatures of the domain. The Tree King hadn't just reached half-step chaos and combat power, its body's surface was already chaotified. Once the Tree King's skin was chaotified, it no longer belonged to the domain. Chaos is the source of the great Tao, the source of the domain. In terms of hierarchy, it is innately above the domain. Therefore, with a soul that was not chaotified, he naturally could not lock onto such a target. Lin Moyu felt a headache, but not about the Tree King itself. Though its surface was chaotified, it wasn't complete. There were still ways to deal with it. What really worried him was the Tree Sovereign. Judging from the state of the Tree Kings, the Tree Sovereign might already be fully chaotified, a truly formidable entity. For now, since he had no solution to the Tree Sovereign, Lin Moyu decided to handle the Tree Kings first. The Tree King that had been frozen had started to adapt, struggling madly. Its comrades lashed out with branches and roots, smashing the shell of ice, which splintered and threatened to shatter at any moment. Lin Moyu's will surged. Sending more power into the frost, countless icy spikes erupted and pierced the Tree King's outer skin. Wai Tui 17227, Fei Lu 1802901 The Tree King had only chaotified its surface. Inside, its body had not. Lin Moyu's soul followed the ice spikes into the Tree King's body, passing beyond the outer skin and at last managing to lock onto it. With a gentle flick, corpse explosion. A huge number of prepared tree corpses turned to ash, and the Tree King's body exploded from within. One explosion wasn't enough to kill the Tree King, so Lin Moyu repeated the process again and again. He had a massive reserve of corpses. He wanted to see just how much punishment the Tree King could endure. The difference between half-step chaos and eternity really was immense. Even after multiple explosions, the Tree King howled in pain and rage, its screams like razors to the soul. So awful! Fatty clasped her ears, not wanting to hear the noise, but it cut straight to the soul, covering her ears made no difference. Lin Moyu blasted 10 corpse explosions in an instant, yet the Tree King was wounded but not dead. Truly tough. Lin Moyu realized that there really was a formidable gap between himself and the Tree Kings. On the strength side, with power gather he could achieve half-step chaos, but his body and soul, lacking true chaotification, were much weaker in defense. His thoughts whirled, but he kept up the assault. If 10 explosions weren't enough, then 20, 40, or even more. He had more than enough corpses, so there was no risk of running out. Chapter 4 to eat. Drained dry. The sound of explosions, mingled with the Tree King's shrieks, woke the entire Heavenly Void Palace. The Tree King seemed to sense mortal danger, screaming even more fiercely than before, and the other 9 Tree Kings who hadn't yet been attacked started to scream too. Their attacks grew even wilder and more violent. Countless branches and roots tore through the void, striking at Lin Moyu and his undead servants, killing off huge numbers of undead. But the undead were like immortal cockroaches. They died and immediately revived, and their numbers even increased, simply unable to be eradicated. The Icy Jade Meditation. Matt steamed with white mist, freezing nearly 100 meters around Lin Moyu in solid ice, forming icy walls that also blocked the Tree King's attacks. Fatty Girl, guarded outside the shield of ice, doing her utmost to take the brunt of each branch, relieving as much pressure from Lin Moyu as possible. The whole Heavenly Void Palace was shuddering. In the outer areas within that massive maze, streaks of aura soared to the heavens. These auras were similar to those of the ancient trees, making Lin Moyu think of the one tree that had previously escaped. There must have been many similar ancient trees in the outer regions, and hearing the Tree King's cries, they were now awakening. The ground began to quake, cracks appeared far off, and ancient trees burst from the earth, joining the battle. These trees could move underground, and Lin Moyu had no idea how many might hide in the palace's outer regions, but now that they returned to support the center, it was good news for him. Under the light of the balanced gemstone, these trees could stir up no great storm. On the contrary, they sent him an abundance of ammunition. Good, the more the merrier. Lin Moyu smiled, growing more entertained by the fight. Corpse explosions followed one after another. No matter what the Tree King tried, it couldn't stop the explosions, which were formless and sourceless, impossible to avoid or block, only to endure. After 30 successive deadly blasts, each one as fierce as an Eternal's last-ditch blow, and each one detonating inside the Tree King, even a Tree King at half-step Chaos Realm couldn't handle it. Its body was left with gaping holes. The corpse explosions damaged not only its flesh but also its soul, and wounds of the body were echoes of wounds to the soul. The Tree King's surface was sparkling. Wisp after wisp of Chaos Force seeped in from the skin into its innards. Wherever the Chaos Force touched, the Tree King's wounds rapidly mended, and even its soul was being restored. In the blink of an eye, most of its injuries recovered. Almost everything Lin Moyu had done was erased. So that's chaotification's power? Lin Moyu was surprised. He hadn't expected this kind of functionality for a chaotified body. But his interest only sharpened. He wanted to see what else Chaos Force could do. By his reckoning, the Tree King was the toughest foe he'd ever tried to kill with corpse explosion. Half a realm's difference really did make a world of difference. Luckily, the ancient forest was filled with trees. His arsenal was limitless. He continued unleashing corpse explosions. The Tree King fought back desperately, but Chaos Force seemed finite. After a few healing bursts, it stopped appearing. Lin Moyu kept up his barrage until the Tree King's chaotified skin finally began to give way, wide cracks appearing, its soul aura dimming. No other tricks? If the only function of the Chaos Force was to recover from injuries, that was a bit disappointing to Lin Moyu. He'd hoped to see more. But he didn't hold back for that reason. Suffering dozens of corpse explosions, the Tree King's body was covered in wounds. Even its chaotified outer layer began to collapse. The screaming intensified, but it was helpless. Death was approaching. The other 9 Tree Kings did everything they could, wrapping their roots around their companion, trying to shield it and send its strength to heal. It was useless. Corpse explosion could not be blocked by space or time. It simply could not be stopped. This Tree King's life was almost at an end. But Lin Moyu didn't relax for a second, staring at the Tree Sovereign in the far distance. That towering, terrifying presence hadn't moved at all. No matter how awful the Tree King's screams, it stayed still. It was certainly not just asleep. It clearly didn't care about the Tree King's life or death. Lin Moyu guessed it had its own mission, or perhaps the Tree Kings were irrelevant to it. Maybe the entire forest simply didn't matter to it at all. Just how powerful was Chaos Realm? Lin Moyu had only scratched the surface. Maybe today he'd learn. After a full 100 corpse explosions, that Tree King was finally reduced to dust. If it was that hard to kill a half-step chaos being, a full chaos realm being would be nearly unimaginable. With the Tree King dead, its body turned to ash, ready to be used as material for Lin Moyu's next weapon. He didn't use the Tree King's corpse immediately against the other Tree Kings. He intended to save it, perhaps it would come in handy against the Tree Sovereign. As for the other Tree Kings, he could handle them as before, using the lesser trees from the forest. There was no shortage of corpses, no shortage of dust. This ancient forest was strewn with remains, more than enough for his needs. To Lin Moyu, the whole battle was nothing but another experiment. Now he knew. Corpse explosion could kill a half-step chaos being. That was sufficient knowledge. As one Tree King fell, the remaining 9 only grew more crazed, but for some reason they could not move. Their only option was to stand their ground, using branches and roots to fight. They were passive by nature. Once Lin Moyu had found a means to kill them, their fate was already sealed. The balance. Gemstone's light eventually shone on several more Tree Kings. As Lin Moyu expected, its effect was less than ideal. Their chaotified skins blocked most of the gemstone's power, but at least their attacks were somewhat weakened. With the lesson of the first Tree King, Lin Moyu was bolder this time. He channeled a great surge of power into the icy jade meditation mat, making it shine more brightly and unleashing an aura even greater than before. Suddenly, a message flowed into Lin Moyu's mind. The mat had truly activated now, and he learned one of its abilities. Heaven and Earth, Frozen Seal. With a low shout, all the power in Lin Moyu's body, including his soul force, was instantly drawn out, leaving him instantly drained dry. Fortify troops and power gather spells collapsed at once. Luckily, the balanced gemstone still functioned, so even after those spells ended, the undead army remained unshakable. Now, Lin Moyu looked like a dried-up corpse. With a bitter smile, he chose to self-destruct, his body exploding into a mist of blood, then regenerating anew in a flash of violet light. He hadn't expected the icy jade meditation mat to need so much energy enough to drain even someone of his level in an instant. But he barely managed to meet its requirements. The mat released a pure white glow, rising through the air and solidifying into ice, forming a mirror. Within the mirror, much of the ancient forest was reflected and then began to freeze. At the same time, the actual forest began freezing too. With a thought, Lin Moyu instantly recalled all his undead. A moment later, all the trees were frozen. A once vibrant world fell silent and dead. Chapter 422-9. What fault is there? Heaven and earth were frozen not with ordinary ice, but with cold energy. This cold penetrated to the soul, bursting forth from the deepest parts of one's spirit, spreading through the flesh and then permeating every corner of the world. That's why it is called the Heaven and Earth Cold Seal. Not just heaven and earth freezing. Within the area covered by the cold seal, everything was shrouded in cold energy, and all life force was extinguished. The cold turned into wind, swirling everywhere it went, bringing endless death. Only within 100 meters around Lin Moyu was the cold kept at bay, a safe zone. Luckily, there were no more walls of ice by Lin Moyu's side at this time. Fatty girl, Pang Niu, clung close to him. Not daring to stray far, she could sense that this cold wind could kill her outright. Lin Moyu looked around and said, "Not dead yet?" Within the range, not a single ancient tree survived, but 3 of the Tree Kings weren't entirely dead. They'd been sealed in cold, their surfaces glowing faintly as they struggled against it. Even their souls did the same, resisting the cold's invasion. They survived, but for now had no power to attack, not even to move. Lin Moyu muttered, "It's still that my strength is insufficient, unable to bring out the full power." Even with all his might driving the Heaven and Earth Cold Seal, he could only use about half its strength. With the full power, he'd be able to kill the Tree Kings. The icy jade meditation mat, Bingyu Futuan, was more powerful than Lin Moyu expected, but its requirements were too high. Every use cost him a death. With a thought, he saw that all ancient trees frozen to death remained intact and hadn't turned to dust, but that did not stop them from being used as weapons. When he'd unleashed the cold seal, Lin Moyu's soul flowed with the cold energy into the Tree Kings, locking onto them. Corpse explosion! The trees, felled by cold, all turned to dust, each erupting in explosions, using their last reserves for one final blast. This time, Lin Moyu didn't detonate them one at a time, but blasted 3 Tree Kings at once. With a thunderous roar, the Tree Kings barely holding out against the seal suffered a fatal blow. Trapped in the cold, they couldn't even scream, only meeting death in frustration. Lin Moyu killed them with little effort, much easier than before. He said softly, "A powerful, convenient treasure really does save a lot of effort." Fatty Girl's expression was complicated. She now felt her master was a complete monster, and all the treasures he produced were monstrous too. Heaven and the Earth Cold Seal would persist for some time, and Lin Moyu, manipulating the balanced gemstone, advanced with balanced light into the remaining areas. Well over half of the ancient trees remained 6 Tree Kings left. Lin Moyu had only taken 2 steps when Fatty Girl suddenly shouted, "Master, be careful!" A massive vine lashed down from above. Lin Moyu's vision went black, as if all of heaven and earth were collapsing on him. Fatty transformed into a giant to block in front of him. With a bang, she was sent flying, screaming in pain. The giant form collapsed. Fatty Girl vanished, and the Domain Rivers and Mountains Order revealed its true form. A huge crack had appeared on the treasure, almost breaking it to pieces. Lin Moyu immediately appeared beside her artifact body, picking up the Domain Rivers and Mountains Order and examining it with relief. It was badly damaged, but the core was intact, and as it had self-repair capability, it would recover soon. In the air, sounds of shattering grew more frequent around them. The space sealed by cold broke apart. That single strike not only gravely wounded Fatty Girl, it also shattered the Heaven and Earth Cold Seal, destroying much of the frozen space. Lin Moyu looked at the perpetrator. Not far from the center stood the Tree Sovereign. A massive branch slowly withdrew. It was clear the Tree Sovereign had just acted. It actually woke up. Lin Moyu showed no fear. He understood that the Tree Sovereign's message was, "Don't touch any more trees, or it would continue to intervene." He drew a deep breath and continued walking toward the Tree Sovereign. And as expected, the Tree Sovereign did not attack again. The remaining ancient forest fell into a hush. All trees and the remaining Tree Kings received the order and went still. As he passed by the Tree Kings' corpses, Lin Moyu casually swept them up, collecting numerous tree corpses along his way for him. These were weapons, and it was always wise to gather more. As he neared the center, the closer he drew, the stronger the Tree Sovereign's power felt. Fatty Girl, recovering, finally managed to transform back and appear at Lin Moyu's side, weakly saying, "Master, the Tree Sovereign is incomparably powerful." Lin Moyu nodded. "Don't worry, I can handle it." Fatty Girl, though knowing Lin Moyu had many tricks, was not at all confident in his ability to best the Tree Sovereign. That previous strike had only been a test, yet already so terrifying. If the Tree Sovereign had gone all out, she herself could have died instantly. Its strength was unlike anything before. She didn't know the source of Lin Moyu's confidence. His belief rested with the causal ring. When he first entered the Heavenly Void Palace, he'd used the ring to plant a fruit that guaranteed he would safely return. He trusted in the causal ring. He believed he would ultimately make it out unharmed. Thus, Lin Moyu had no fear at all before the Tree Sovereign. As he got closer to the center, Lin Moyu clearly saw the Fairy of Tribulation, which sat motionless atop the central spire, as if waiting for something. Elsewhere, the butler also hid in the clouds of Tao energy, also biding his time. It seemed the thing they each sought was inside the central spire, but none could enter. To reach the central spire, one had to face the Tree Sovereign, a daunting task. At about 1 kilometer from the Tree Sovereign, the ground shook. Roots slid across the soil like dragons, drawing a line before Lin Moyu. "Do not cross this line." The Tree Sovereign's deep, aged voice sounded like an old, ancient being. Lin Moyu stopped, respectfully bowed. "Lin Moyu greets Senior Tree Sovereign." The Tree Sovereign spoke gravely. "Do you know your fault?" Lin Moyu was stunned, then replied without thinking, "What fault is there?" The Tree Sovereign's tone darkened. "You have slaughtered my descendants. That is your fault." Lin Moyu shook his head. "I had to reach the center. They blocked my way, that made them my enemies." I killed my enemies. What fault is there in that? If Senior wishes to stop me too, I will not show mercy. Whether I win or lose, I will fight with everything I have. The Tree Sovereign did not argue, merely said, "You have not solved this challenge in the way my master arranged. That is also your fault." Lin Moyu said, "Your master is not mine. Why should I follow his designs, whose purpose I do not know? Even if he himself appears and tries to stop me, I will fight him with all I have." With a trace of disdain, the Tree Sovereign replied, "Your strength is low. You are no match for my master." Lin Moyu retorted, "Whether I'm a match or not is another question. If this is all Senior wishes to say, words are pointless. Let's settle this with force." The Tree Sovereign, however, did not attack. Instead, a thick branch slowly lifted, its light projecting an image. "Solve this puzzle, and you may enter the Heavenly Void Tower." In his heart, Lin Moyu whispered, "I guessed right." Chapter 42:30. The Intentions of the Heavenly Void. Palace Master. The Tree Sovereign is the final guardian of the Heavenly Void Palace, and can also be regarded as the gatekeeper of the central treasure tower within the Heavenly Void. Its existence is bound by many rules. The master of the Heavenly Void Palace would never allow it to act freely. Just like the Torch Dragon in former times, it could have certain privileges, but still had to act within set boundaries. From the first moment the Tree Sovereign attacked, Lin Moyu had already been pondering the purpose behind the Tree Sovereign's existence. All the ancient trees in the ancient forest, including the Tree Kings, could strictly be seen as the Tree Sovereign's subordinates. Given how fiercely the battle raged just now, it is impossible the Tree Sovereign wasn't aware. The reason it didn't interfere may have been for many reasons, one of which could be that it didn't really care. As long as it remains, such ancient trees can proliferate and grow endlessly, so losing a few is of little consequence. However, when Lin Moyu was about to truly exterminate the ancient trees, the Tree Sovereign then intervened, but only as a warning, acting just once. Lin Moyu understood this. Once he stopped attacking the other trees, the Tree Sovereign stopped targeting him. When he confronted it directly, the Tree Sovereign questioned his actions, but naturally, Lin Moyu refused to acknowledge fault. That's because the purpose of the Heavenly Void Palace Master isn't really here. Since such an elaborate setup exists, it can only be to select someone qualified to enter the Heavenly Void Palace. Someone with excellent command over divine rune formations and possessing strength as well, both are necessary. To reach this stage, one must pass Fatty Girl's trial. Without her guidance, it would be impossible to even reach the ancient forest. And those who meet these standards are always proud and headstrong. Chances are high they will see through any arrangement and are very likely to go against the intended path. Lin Moyu was exactly this sort of person, and the Palace Master would certainly have predicted that. So, reaching this place purely by force is possible. The Tree Sovereign's accusation is just part of the process. But since the Palace Master wants to select someone proficient in divine rune formations, he would leave the greatest formation test at the final threshold, placed under the Tree Sovereign's jurisdiction. Only after passing this ultimate trial can one enter the center, the Heavenly Void Tower. Because the Tree Sovereign's power is absolute, no one in the entire domain can surpass it. Those who reach the Chaos Realm will eventually leave the domain and cannot come here, and those not yet in Chaos Realm cannot be a match for the Tree Sovereign. It's clear the Palace Master's arrangement is watertight. Even Lin Moyu himself did not have full confidence he could defeat the Tree Sovereign, not to mention anyone else. To put it bluntly, even the Torch Dragon in his heyday would have to mind its behavior here. Even if the Torch Dragon, after transcending, returned with its Chaos Realm cultivation, it might not outmatch the Tree Sovereign. The Tree Sovereign has lived for countless years. Its true strength is incalculable. Lin Moyu stood less than a kilometer from the Tree Sovereign. In his vision, the Tree Sovereign stretched from earth to heaven, and in the sight of the undead eye, its soul flame was equally terrifying. Yet to his soul perception, it was as though the Tree Sovereign did not even exist, a rift that made Lin Moyu's heart tremble. However, he had already planted the fruit in the causal ring. Even if he had to fight, he would not be afraid. But if it could be avoided, there was no need to fight. Hearing the Tree Sovereign's last words, Lin Moyu knew he had guessed right. The Tree Sovereign was bound to act by the rules and would not harm him. The Tree Sovereign's branch projected an image. The distant heavenly void tower, its surroundings veiled by the power of the Tao, misty and unclear. Now, the Tree Sovereign used a projection to display a portion of the tower. The tower in the projection slowly revolved, showing its first floor. The heavenly void tower had 8 great doors, each shimmering with multicolored light, displaying all manner of images, lively, dynamic, always changing. The Tree Sovereign said, "For every door you open, you may ascend a floor. My master once said, if you have broken through the formations to reach here, you need only unlock 2 doors, and I may allow you entry to the tower. If you are not someone who reached here by breaking formations, you must unlock 4 doors before being admitted." Lin Moyu glanced at the projection. The heavenly void tower in the image was exactly as it appeared at that very moment, with not a single detail in error. Breaking through formations here or at the actual tower was no different. The ever-changing patterns on the doors were the real formation, created by divine runes split apart and rewoven, their positions constantly shifting, producing complex patterns that massively raised the challenge. If a true formation master came, a single glance at those images would already be dazzling. Even Lin Moyu felt a headache clearly. The palace master's attainments in divine rune formations surpassed his expectations. He turned his head to glance at the main body of the heavenly void palace, cloaked in the Tao's power, hazy but faintly revealing 9 floors. Lin Moyu said, "It seems there are 9 floors in the heavenly void palace, but only 8 doors here." The Tree Sovereign replied, "My master once said, only by opening all 8 doors can you even have a chance at the 9th floor. As for how to enter the 9th, you must figure that out yourself." Lin Moyu nodded and asked again, "In all these years besides me, has anyone else ever come here?" He actually knew the answer from Fatty Girl, but wanted to verify it after all. Fatty sometimes slept and might have missed things. The Tree Sovereign answered, "Those 2 above have both been here before. Both managed to open 2 doors." Lin Moyu looked up. "They're both back again this time. What do they want?" The Tree Sovereign said, "If you successfully open the doors, they can follow you inside as well." Lin Moyu was a bit surprised. "You mean, if I open the doors, they can enter with me?" The Tree Sovereign said, "That's what my master said." All right, Lin Moyu roughly understood the palace master's logic. If someone unlocks the door's formations, others can follow through, not just the opener. So if the person unlocking the doors doesn't want others to tag along, it's up to them to prevent it, since the Tree Sovereign will never interfere. If you can't stop them, it just means you lack strength or luck, accepted as fate. Lin Moyu found this reasonable. To be chosen by the palace master, you must be skilled in divine runes, powerful, and have strong luck as well. Such people are exceedingly rare. No wonder so few have entered successfully over all the ages. Lin Moyu didn't act immediately. He had other questions. This is the 5th generation Heavenly Void Palace. What about the other Heavenly Void Palaces? The Tree Sovereign said, "The answer to that is inside the Heavenly Void Tower. Whether you can obtain it will depend on your luck and strength. But I sincerely hope you can open all 8 doors. Should you do so, I promise to grant you one request." Lin Moyu's brow rose. For a chaos level, being to say this, opening all 8 doors clearly offers the Tree Sovereign some truly great benefit. The specific benefit didn't matter. The Tree Sovereign's promise did, and besides, Lin Moyu also wanted to open all 8 doors and try for the 9th. He guessed that the answer he sought lay on the 9th floor. Lin Moyu whispered, "I will do my best." His eyes fell on the formation patterns in the Tree Sovereign's projection. He began to delve into the divine rune array. It was extremely challenging, but Lin Moyu was confident he was sure he could do it. In chapters 4221 to 4230 of Catastrophic Necromancer, the scale of Lin Moyu's power and strategy pushes the story into high-stakes battlefield mastery and dominance over forces previously thought unbreakable. Early on, Lin Moyu completes a complex triple formation that unifies Tao forces in the sky, on the lake, and in a newly constructed middle array. From this, he summons a colossal Tao giant and dominates his opponent's giant in a clash that shakes the very fabric of space. With the battlefield reshaped, Lin Moyu then seizes and subdues a powerful artifact spirit bound within the mountain-shaped treasure. Through unwavering pressure and the use of his world-burning fire and death force, he forces the spirit into submission and forces it to accept his blood essence, binding the artifact's power to himself. As the arc continues, Lin Moyu's influence expands further when a powerful chaos-level spell unexpectedly empowers his undead forces beyond limits once imposed by external constraints. His legion of undead spikes to peak power, defying suppression and demonstrating that his commanding presence on the battlefield has grown drastically. Across these chapters, the focus goes beyond simple combat. It's about overwhelming authority, strategic controls, and bending even divine or artifact spirits to his will. Lin Moyu doesn't just win battles, he absorbs, reshapes, and redefines power itself, leaving allies and enemies alike to reckon with a commander whose influence now spans spirits, undead armies, and the very energies that shape their world. If you enjoyed this summary and analysis of chapters 4221 to 4230 of Catastrophic Necromancer, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Extreme Highlights audio novels. See you in the next chapter.